Welcome to Don't Lose Your Head, Episode 1, Marie Antoinette. These are the tales of epic characters who met epic demises. Marie Antoinette was born November 2nd, 1755. She was guillotined October 16, 1793. While it might sound like a gruesome death, the guillotine was invented to provide a more humane end. While an axeman might be having a bad day, the guillotine was quick and certain. To ensure a clean cut, Marie Antoinette's hair was cut off and then burned. While it might have provided a small consolation that her death would be quick and efficient, the process no doubt would have been degrading. But Marie Antoinette was no stranger to being degraded, since she was not immediately executed but spent some time in the prison, the Conciergerie, which was a far cry from her extravagant lifestyle in Versailles. This is her prison cell in the Conciergerie, as compared to her room in Versailles. While Marie Antoinette was once known for her elaborate hairstyles and extravagant wardrobe, her time in various prisons took its toll on her appearance, and by the time she was beheaded, she was a shadow of her former self. Her once famous hair became grey and started falling out, but Marie Antoinette maintained her dignity. There were far greater things she had to suffer. While in the Conciergerie, she was kept in solitary confinement and was kept under careful watch at all times. It was also while in the Conciergerie that her eyesight began to fail her. Just to give you some idea of how large Marie Antoinette's wardrobe was, she had 3 whole rooms at Versailles set aside for her clothing. She was permitted to get 36 dresses for summer and 36 for winter, but unfortunately, due to her love for fashion, this number ballooned. Marie Antoinette's clothing and accessory allowance was 120,000 livres per year, yet she often ended up spending far in excess of this amount. I have given this extremely brief overview to illustrate just how great the fall of Marie Antoinette was. But now let us return once more to her execution. It is worth pointing out that beheadings by guillotine were a source of public entertainment, and that programs were even sold listing who would be killed that day. This picture shows 2 of the different kinds of guillotine used in France. I'm going to be naughty and interrupt this broadcast now to talk about some sources. I wasn't going to do that, but I've come across a lot of interesting ones and I thought, why not? So, if you would like to look up more things about Marie Antoinette, there are some old things I've found and some new things I've found. Let's start with The Rise and Fall of Versailles, which was a 3-part documentary on Louis XIV, XV and XVI, and we are focusing primarily here on the 3rd episode, Louis XVI. While the episode is about Louis XVI and not Marie Antoinette, it does give you an insight into Versailles, her husband Louis XVI, and also the time period in which she lived, and also a little bit about Louis XIV and XV. The second is the History Chicks podcast. It's the Marie Antoinette episode, which I think might have been episode number 1. They do a lot of research for this podcast, and it was quite an interesting episode. And if you know very little about Marie Antoinette, it will give you all of the background information. Next we have the Marie Antoinette film from 2006, titled obviously Marie Antoinette and starring Kirsten Dunst. Now, I thought this was quite a good film because some of it was historically accurate, and also it was shot at Versailles with a lot of access to Versailles, so you get a chance to see where Marie Antoinette actually would have lived. The film doesn't delve too far into what happened to Marie Antoinette later on in her life, so if you want to know about that, you'd probably better do some other research first. I should probably do a graphic change now because even though it would make it easier to follow along with my suggested sources, I'm sure it's gotten very boring seeing the same picture for several minutes. So let's do a graphics change again. It's just Marie Antoinette, her hair increasing in height, the nicest lady you've met. The vicious rumors weren't right. You see, it's all the upper crust. They really drive you insane. Let's try to consummate again. Let's make our flight to Varennes. Alright, I'll stop being silly now. Well, maybe. The next thing on our list is the Frock Flicks podcast. The Frock Flicks, that's a tongue twister, which I only found while making this doozy what's it. And the Frock Flicks podcast has a Marie Antoinette episode, which was actually pretty good. It goes through the outfits and the costumes for the film, which ties in really well with this video. And it goes through in a great lot of depth. It's really interesting and, like I said, very appropriate to what I've recorded. But again, there's not a lot of background information, so you'll probably want to do some other research first and then check this out. But I like to study around a topic, under a topic and through a topic, and I think that this is really good because looking at the costumes in the film as compared to what people would have really been wearing back then gives you a really good insight into their lives as well. Okay, so those sound effects signal the fact that there's a scary thing coming up. There is a Frock Flicks episode on the movie that I will next be talking about, which was The Affair of the Necklace, which I just watched recently. Now, the problem with The Affair of the Necklace is, number one, I haven't done a great deal of research into this part of Marie Antoinette's life, but I feel that it's probably historically inaccurate. And number two, it is so cliched, it is almost unbearable in some points. But that being said, after a while I did start enjoying it despite all its faults, so I now hate myself, but oh well. I feel like in The Affair of the Necklace there's a vastly oversimplified dichotomy between the wealthy, the opulent, the indifferent, represented by Marie Antoinette, and then the poor people. But from what I can tell, the main character, played by Hilary Swank, isn't dirt poor. She has a background of nobility, and even though she's trying to get back the honour of her family's name, she doesn't seem to be in extreme poverty. The Affair of the Necklace paints Marie Antoinette as being haughty and obnoxious, a view that many historians have now found to be incorrect. However, it is useful when looking at how Marie Antoinette probably would have been viewed by her people at that point in time. But again, there's not a whole heap of background information, and you're probably thinking, why is Rebecca giving us all these sources that skirt around the issue of Marie Antoinette, but don't give us loads of the essentials that we need to know if we don't already know a lot about this lady? And my answer to that is not sheer laziness, but the fact that a lot of those other sources have already been done to death. So, in the interest of not just copying what everyone else has done, I thought I would do some other ones. And a few of them do have some important information, just not all the important information. Okay, so our last source is the Revolutions podcast. And again, it's not exactly about Marie Antoinette, but it is about the French Revolution, and it does go into a lot of detail. And that does give you some information about, again, the time period, the French Revolution, why Marie Antoinette ended up being beheaded, Marie Antoinette's husband, the flight to Varennes, and etc., etc. Anyway, I was going to make this quite a bit longer, but it's already quite long and I know people will already be tuning out. I'm thinking of doing more episodes of these, and I swear that they will be better. I've just got to get into my groove. But I'm thinking of making episode 2 about Anne Boleyn. Oscar Wilde wrote, "To lose one parent is misfortune, but to lose two parents is sheer carelessness." And I think with Marie Antoinette, To lose your crown is misfortune, but to lose your head is sheer carelessness. Anyway, don't forget, don't lose your head. These are the tales of epic characters who met epic demises. Merci and au revoir, everyone.